Hey, 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 welcome back to the Real Ones Only, the podcast where we keep it raw, ridiculous, and just little reflective. I'm your host, Manish, and today we are diving into something a lot of us can relate to. You know what? What I was thinking, that kind of phase of our youth. The timing in life where our decision making skills were about as developed as microwave dinner. We are all got stories, some hilarious, some embarrassing, and some that taught us a big life lesson eventually. Joining me today is someone I know and admire, Alyssa. She is smart, bold, and definitely not shy when it comes to telling the truth. And she has brought a friend along with who is just as wild as Alyssa, Jed. Now, heads up, this episode includes stories about weed, dating, disaster, drag club, and weed brownie, and a lot more. That sounds like a whole Marvel original story. But today, before you panic, this is not an ad or a bad decision, right? So make sure the main thing is basically you are not getting influenced by the conversation. This episode is about growing up, messing up, and coming out wiser, funnier, and more aware of what and who we are. So roll basically with us, not literally, and let's jump in. Alyssa, welcome. I'm so glad to have you here. Let's start with this. How did you become the unofficial president of Wild Youth Stories?
Well, I guess it started at a Halloween party a couple years ago. We went to go see a friend in New Hampshire. I was dressed as a cow. What were you dressed
I
as?
was dressed as Big Bird.
Yeah, it's a
Mm-hmm.
Sesame Street
Yeah,
character.
I was dressed as a giant yellow bird.
Uh-huh.
And I had been traveling back and forth to New Hampshire trying to make my own weed butter,
Mm-hmm.
because I also like to bake. For this
Uh-huh.
party, it was kind of a potluck situation, and we all decided that we wanted to bring different things. I said I would bring brownies. I just didn't really know how to measure the butter or anything, so I poured the whole thing into the brownie pan, and all too late. Like after we had already cut the brownie, like we split it between the 16 of us. Did anybody actually ask how much it was? So we decided to kind of Google it and try to figure it out. And the number we came up with was like 1,000 milligrams. Uh, After that, though, we didn't really have much time to worry about it. The whole night's a blur. I do remember that some people ended up switching costumes. Um, we ran down to the theater. We ran through a park. We both got locked outside,
We did get lost.
and we forgot our phones, so we had to actually sleep outside that night. But
Oh my god, that's
you
not a
live and you
party
learn.
snacks for sure, right? That's a science
No, no.
experiment. So what happened next? Like, you guys did something more crazy after that?
Oh, yeah, so it was a wild night that I hardly remember. At some point, I remember laying on a pool table instead of actually finishing the game. And
Uh-huh.
then because I was dressed like Big Bird, a family who had seen me like in the park was like, "Oh, happy Halloween. Our son loves Sesame Street. Could you come over and say hi?" So now I'm sitting here dressed as a giant Muppet, wearing bright yellow, trying to like say hi to these little kids while I'm baked out of my mind. Like, oh man, I can't. Who are you people? Hey kids, it's me, Big Bird. And I had no idea how to like coherently interact with people, let alone strangers. It
But you
was,
made $20.
yeah, I mean, they paid me for it. So,
Wow. So, Alisa, basically, I just wanted to make sure. I mean, if right now, because now you are a very mature, responsible person, what would you do differently if you could go back to that night?
Well, there's a couple things I would do differently. One, I think I would measure before I brought the brownie. And two, I would charge my phone and remember to keep it on me at all times.
All right, all right. Jed, do you have some wild story like this? Like, I know you were a part of that, like, but you specifically did something which is like, oh my God. I mean, you still think and just, there is a smile on your face. Do you recall anything like that?
yeah, so I am still a college student. And the big thing with college kids is you're not expected to make many good decisions. You're going to
Absolutely.
have a lot of wild nights running around doing stuff that you're probably going to regret later. And I remember it was probably my second year of college. It's roughly like 2.5-ish years ago. I had met some witches, and I'm not sure if you've met the Wiccan or neo-pagan community. Um,
No.
fun groups of people, really into some wild stuff. Um,
Wow.
It's a religion that we practice. Some people practice here in the States, where it's kind of based on paganism and old witchcraft. Very
Wow.
popular in Massachusetts.
yeah, and they're usually down for anything. And so I ended up what's it called? Oh, sorry. I ended up, what's it called? Trip sitting.
Uh-huh.
Trip sitting, great practice to get into if you're going to be using any substances of any kind. Um,
Uh-huh.
you want to make sure that you're doing them responsibly, and an easy way to do that is to make sure that somebody is willing to be the responsible member of your group.
Yeah.
That just happened to be me this time. And so one of the witches I ended up being out with, let's call him K. K ended up taking about a stem and a cap of
Wow.
mushrooms,
Oh, wow.
psilocybin. Yeah. Um, so about a whole shroom to himself, and he was of the philosophical mind. He's a scholar, let's just say.
Yeah.
Uh, so, so as we're leaving class, he decides to eat this and he starts thinking. He's like, let's take a walk through the park. So
Yeah.
now we're having a discussion about some stuff that we have been talking about in class today. I believe it involved some form of discussion about existentialism, what it means to be yourself. He left that discussion far behind him because he was no longer himself. And
My
now he
God.
starts telling us about how all of the trees and grass are an extension of Mother Earth's beauty, and how by keeping the park caged in by these streets and concrete, we're slowly choking the lifeblood out of the world, and how we can feel the planet breathing. And it was about when he got to that sentence, I can feel the planet breathing, that I was like, we need to go somewhere else because you should not be shouting this in the middle of the city at like 8 p.m.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I
Yeah.
remember in my college time, right? I had one of my friends. So basically, so this friend was studying philosophy, right? And then he was very good in writing philosophy paper, right? So we had exams, and then all of a sudden, I don't know what hit him up, and he was like, "Hey, I should, um, totally get stoned and then go to exam." I was like, okay. And I was like, if he can write so well when he is totally conscious and his all senses are at the same time working very fine, how good he would be when he is, basically, you understand, right? Generally when you are stoned, your mind just do extra imagination, right? So I was like, this guy is gonna kill it when he is appearing in an exam. What he did, he totally smoked up, and he was in an exam, and he was not able to write. He was like, hey buddy, you know what, the words are just flying in front of me. And I was like, what the fuck is wrong with you, right? And then that paper, he could not clear it, and then after that he reappeared for the paper and he did it good. But that was crazy, right? I mean, I never understand, why people generally, I mean, that's the thing that comes to your mind when you are doing some wild thing, right? And every people
Hmm.
on this earth, when they are young, they do all kind of shit, right? Alisa, you were telling me about a very good story about drag club and street drug thing, right? So
So
yeah. So I just wanted to talk about that drag club, trans friend, and that mystery substance. You talked to me about that.
yeah, this was during my college days. I met this trans, hold on, I kind of confused these words. I believe trans man. She was transitioning into a he.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and he invited me out with some of his friends to a drag club called Jock's Cabaret here, because
Mm-hmm.
his friend was performing. And so I was
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, sure, let's do it. Of course, we smoked before we got there, and
Yeah.
it took us like 20, 30 minutes more than it should have because we were walking around the streets and we couldn't figure out where to go. We eventually got there an hour late, but just in time for his friend's performance, and she was so beautiful. It looked amazing. She did great. She practiced for it. It went great. So we
Mm.
took a little break after that. There was a intermission, and that friend came out and smoked with us. And I don't smoke joints. I take what's called edibles, so it's like gummies, chocolates, drinks. But
Wow.
I was like, you know what? Fuck it. Let's just try. I'll smoke it because she had a lot left and she didn't want to just throw it away.
Mm-hmm.
I smoked a little bit and instantly felt lighter. For some reason, I just convinced myself it was a great idea to buy some weed just off the street from another person who was inside the show.
Fuck.
They looked like a candy called Dum Dums that we have here, which is like a little gummy gumdrop kind of thing.
Okay. Okay.
Each of them were 25 milligrams. I didn't know what
Fuck.
strain it was. Yeah, I didn't know what strain it was. For reference, I only take like 5 or 10 at a time. But I was like, you
My
know what?
God.
I smoked this blunt. I feel fine. Just gonna pop two gummies, right?
Yeah.
So
My God.
at first it didn't feel like much, so I'm like, oh, you know what? Maybe I got gypped. And then I just remembered that my friend put me in an Uber and she got me home, or I'm sorry, he got me home like at 2 in the morning or something, and I had to call off work the next day.
My God. That's a crazy story. Have you ever encountered with such kind of incidents, Jade?
I mean, I try to avoid buying drugs off the street for this exact reason. You just can never be sure quite how strong they're gonna be. Um, I also try to avoid being outside too much when I'm like really high. Mostly because being stoned messes with your sense of direction. Like I remember with an ex of mine, we had been walking home and it was only about a mile, quick 30-45 minute walk.
Okay.
No, that was the longest walk of my life. I might have ended up in a different state. I'm not even sure if I really made it home, honestly. This could all be a hallucination. But yeah, no, it seemed like about an hour into a walk that somehow only took 30 minutes, she just turns to me and is like, we've been here before. And I'm like, what do you mean? We've been here before. She's like, no, trust me. We've been walking for like an hour and I've seen this exact place at least 3 times. So now I'm looking around because I'm kind of panicking. Like, what if she's right? What if we are trapped in some kind of time loop? Now I don't recognize my own neighborhood. I'm like, I thought my house was this way. Maybe it's back that way, you
Don't
know?
forget she thought you guys were being followed.
Oh yeah, that was another one. Now she's like, is that guy following us? Now I'm sitting here looking at my neighbors like they're suspicious. You gotta definitely one know where you are and know who you're with, because one of you has to know how to get home. Have a
Hmm.
map ready, something.
I mean, one time, same thing happened to me. I was in a very, very famous place in Mumbai, and we had this college festival, right? And one of my friend, I mean, I was not, I'm basically not a heavy drinker, right? So it's like I can drink, but it's like, when I started in my early age, I was not, right? So one of my friend was like, hey, start drinking, and we started drinking, and I was so drunk that, I mean, there was a guy who was on a beach. He called me like, hey, I'm here, can you just come in and join me? And I was like, okay, yeah, definitely I'll come. And then somehow I went to a beach, and then I was so drunk that I kept on walking, and I walked for like 10 kilometers. Like it would be what, 6 7 miles from your, from the United States perspective. So I just kept on walking, and I went so far, and I was started feeling dizzy. And then I was like, what should I do? I'm not getting this friend. Am I on a right place or not? And then I called one of a cab, and he just pulled me off, and he took a lot of money from me. And he said, "Hey, buddy, you have walked so much." And then he took me to the same place. I had only one thinking, that, this guy is just sitting near to the beach and there is a big shadow, right? So that shadow was in my conscious mind, that I need to go to that location. So I started describing it to the Uber driver, and he was basically able to help me to get me there. And then after that, I never did that again. But yeah, I mean, you were talking about a very beautiful chaos, Alyssa, right? But on a serious note, right? What did that night teach you about queer spaces, safety, and inclusion?
Kind of the same thing Jane was talking about, just like making sure that you have at least one sober friend or one friend who has a high enough tolerance to watch out for all of you and make sure everybody knows where they are, making sure that you can get where you're going. Don't buy street drugs. I don't recommend it. You don't know what's mixed into it. You don't know how it affects you. Like I was still high for 3 days after the fact.
Yeah, I know.
So I haven't done that again, but it was kind of fun the first time.
I mean, I
Queer spaces are
recently
just
did. I am telling you, I recently did a podcast with a very beautiful trans woman. And both were the couple, and talk a lot about the spaces, consent, community vibe, the learning boundaries. And then I realized that they can also be a very good friend, and they can also
of
help you to
course.
get you everywhere. Where I mean, that's a very interesting thing. But yeah, you continue. You were saying something, and I just recall that.
I was gonna say like it's beautiful and it's fun and they're just people like you or I. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. One more story. I
So
mean, I'm recalling when we connected first time. You talk about the weed virginity for a dying friend, right? Can
yeah,
you talk about it?
sure. So I was 18, 17 or 18 around the time. And this friend was unfortunately dying of cancer.
Oh my god.
He, yes. So I didn't smoke at all. I was very hard against it because my whole family smoked weed and like I saw how it was affecting them, their memory, and I was like, you know what? I just don't want to be a part of that. Um, so I knew this friend smoked weed and I don't really care. I don't have a stigma against those kind of people. I just thought it wasn't for me.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, listen, this might be the last time I get to come over here. Do you mind if we just share this blunt together? And I was like, you know what? Like, yeah. He was a great friend of me. He also had like a little brother who I helped with like studying in classes and that kind of stuff. It was a great time. So we smoked a blunt. I don't know what was in it, but I trusted him and it was totally fine. I took maybe one puff, one or two puffs, and coughed my lungs out. Um, After that, I just had what's called the munchies, which is basically you just get so crazy hungry. And I ate like
Yeah,
a ton of pasta, I ate a ton of sweets, drank a lot, and that was kind of it. Unfortunately, he did pass later that month, but I'm happy that I got to share that experience with him.
that's heavy, but also beautiful. Basically, sometime the wildest moments are layered with the most heart and interesting way. But yeah, I mean, I know. Is it like a very common to everyone? Once you are high, you are so much hungry that you can eat as much as possible. Because I have seen a lot of friends, and they are devils when they are stoned. They
Hmm.
can eat like one person can eat the portion of six people's um I mean, I like, how is it possible? Is it like your body just start building in that way and you crave for everything? And specifically the sweet thing. I'm not sure, it happens.
Yeah.
The sweet thing you
So
like so much. Yeah.
So kind of what happens is like there's a couple of different strains. Like the two main ones are sativa and indica. Sativa is the happier one that kind of makes you do silly stuff, and that's the one that I take a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
It interacts with the other chemicals in your brain and lets you know that like you are in the best state you could possibly be. It sends a bunch of happy signals throughout your body, which is why they're all happy and giggly and willing to
Mm-hmm.
do more crazy things. It also it hits the part of your brain that signals hunger and makes you think you're super hungry. So even after you eat enough to fill yourself, you can eat so much more. And usually it does kind of bring you down if you if you feel yourself that much. Like I at the Halloween party, I ate so many other snacks that I couldn't even move. But
Mm-hmm.
I was happy and I wanted to keep eating more.
Yeah, I know. I don't know what the crazy thing happens when you are totally stoned, because I have seen a lot of people, they can eat so much. And there was one of my friend, he literally, he was like, "Hey man, I cannot breathe." So he ate so much that I'm like, "Hey, why the hell you did that? What is?" I mean, he was like, he ate so much, right? And I was like, "Hey, Jade, have you ever felt like, eating and overeating is something that can totally relate to getting stoned, and how is that correlated?"
No, I'd 100% say that's like totally a thing that happens when you're a stoner. I'd
Hmm.
even say it's like part of the culture. Like I know for a fact that if I were to quantify just the amount of food that I have bought that was in excess of like what I would normally buy exclusively when I was stoned, I could probably have like bought a car with that money.
Didn't your ex spend $80 on cookies?
Yes, like everything will sound like a good idea. Food tastes amazing, so you have to eat a bunch of it. Like oh, I remember when my best friend Chris, he started smoking a year after me, and he was like, "Hey, I've never done this before. Let's try it." Um, and so I have like a second floor to my house, and we were up there smoking. And he was like, "Oh yeah, I'm feeling good." And then I was like, "Oh okay, yeah, let's head back downstairs, watch a show or something." And then he's standing at the top of the stairs. I turn around and I'm looking back up at him. I'm like, "Hey, what's taking so long? You all right?" He's like, "These stairs are too high. I can't do it." And I was like, "What do you mean you can't do it?" And he was like, "I can't go down the stairs." So then I had to put him on my back. I'm piggybacking a grown man down the stairs. I put him on the couch and I'm like, "Hey, you look like you're hungry." And he was like, "What do you mean? I'm not hungry at all." And then I pulled out some Cheez Its and I think he finished the entire box to himself in like 10
Wow.
minutes. He was like, "I wasn't even hungry. What happened?" And I was like, "That's just how it works. You just start going. It's automatic
Wow.
at some point."
One more thing, I think, say, I have seen that when you are stoned and you are high on weed, or, sativa, or whatever you may call it, you are at your best, right? Because you start, I'm not endorsing it, but I have seen, that's my experience, right? That people speak so accurate, sometimes they are so fucked up. Jid, I have this question from for you, and that's a very interesting question. Have you ever got stoned and then started texting your crush or somebody, and just you're like, "Oh my god, he is texting me and he's messaging me," which is like crazy. Because I have a lot of friends, they used to write a very beautiful poetries and used to send it to their, partners, or their, girls. And so I like, have you done something that was like, that went totally in your favor?
I mean, like, who's gonna be seeing this? I don't want to give away. I don't want to give away too many of the notes, but like, I could definitely say that there's more than one occasion, and I feel like it's not even that. I get high and I'm like, oh man, I know exactly what to say. There's definitely like a level of creativity that it unlocks in your head. You just like you would never think to say that normally. But now that your mind is so free and there's so few roadblocks, those things come to mind. And you're like,
Yeah, you
oh
have like
yeah.
all the confidence in the world.
Oh yeah. Like you're never going to think like, oh no, that'll be stupid to say. She won't like that. Now you're sitting there like, oh, your hair is so lustrous and beautiful, like the sun shining off of waves, and it's all chemical, It's they
Mm-hmm.
don't know that you've had help. That's the best part. They don't know at all. But I'm sitting here staring at my phone and the text took me about 5 minutes, but it's a 10 out of 10.
I say
you
it's kind of like
mhm. You
it's
go
kind
ahead.
of similar to how people say like they drink alcohol for liquid courage. Weed does the exact same thing for you.
Wow. No,
Not that
because
I'm
I
encouraging
have
it, not
seen,
that I'm
yeah,
encouraging.
absolutely. I mean, that's the whole cause of this podcast, is to make sure that, these are the thing that you do it for fun, but you should become wiser, because ultimately these things also hamper your health so much, right? Because slowly and gradually
Mm-hmm.
it is hampering your lungs. Obviously, if you are eating edibles, maybe that can be different, because still you are getting used to something, right? And addiction for
Mm-hmm. Of
anything is really bad, right? Because I have seen people who are literally getting addicted to a lot of things. And talking about that creativity, Jade, I have seen a lot of friends of mine, they are studying and doing, bachelors of fine arts and, masters of fine arts. They are very creative. And a lot of friends, they are, I mean, who are into the visual things, right? They start sketching or something. So they generally, what they do, they are just sitting and they are stoned, they smoked so much, and they are sitting at one place and they can draw so beautifully, and they are sitting at one place like hours and hours, right? And they are so, they are very very concentrate. So basically, I have friends, who are sitting on road, looking at a building and drawing it, right? And their concentration is so deep that you can see it in their work as well. So a creative people, I mean, I have seen a lot of creative people consuming these things. Don't you think that, how do you see that, right? How creativity and getting stoned is correlated, and do you see that, the dependency of these intoxication also increases, so much that, they would not be as creative when they are sober? You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
we of course there are a couple of our friends who, at least in my case, I've had to stop talking to because after a certain point it becomes an excuse to keep using the substances. It's just like, oh yeah, I only think the best, or I can only draw the best, I can only write the best if I'm really high, and then that kind of inhibits your way of thinking. So now you're constantly chasing that high.
Mm-hmm.
Then if you keep using it, like if you use it every day, sometimes then you have to start using it multiple times a day, and then you have to start using it constantly. Unfortunately, my own brother, he's that kind of person where like
Mm-hmm.
he cannot go even 10 minutes without smoking weed. He does it every day, all day.
Oh my god.
And then like if you smoke blunts, or you take what's called a bong, or you do hookah, it can affect your lungs the same way cigarettes can.
Mm-hmm.
I have friends who only do vapes, and that's basically sucking on a battery, which
Mm-hmm.
isn't great for your lungs or your brain development. And they kind of like get a addiction to sucking on things. So even if they don't want to smoke the vape, they always want to suck on it because
Mm-hmm.
it's comforting for them now.
My god,
So these
my
things you
god.
have to be kind of careful with. Like I use it in moderation. I only do it like 3 times a week, no more than that. Sometimes I do it less. I only do it if I have one, nothing more important to do. Two, the situation kind of calls for it, like parties and drag shows.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and those are the only reasons. How about you?
No, I mean, like, I think a big part of it is the fact that what we're talking about is a chemical, a substance, and a plant, and
Mm-hmm.
they were going to exist without people or regardless of people. And so a lot of it comes down to your interaction with it, you know? And I would never say that just a bush outside my house is a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't feel realistic to say that marijuana is a bad thing necessarily. It has a lot
Mm-hmm.
to do with how you interact with it. And you can have
Mm-hmm.
negative interactions with it, most definitely. And a big part of that is realizing that it's your actions and how you've chosen to interact with it. And if you find yourself making bad decisions, part of being wiser is recognizing that, reflecting on your actions, and choosing to change.
Absolutely. But at the same time, Jade, what I have realized that, suppose you start in, doing all this stuff, right? And you are start taking this, substances. Then what happen? You initially start enjoying it, right? When you are starting it, you start enjoying it. And then because your body also gets addicted to that, you start
Mm-hmm.
consuming it even in more and more and more and more quantity, right? Your body gets used to it, and then your quantity of the substance also gets increased, right? So is it like my thing is, because I really want to educate our viewers that how those people who are basically are totally addicted to it, how can they realize that they can get it down and finally they can quit it, quit that.
I can say I try to every few months take a tolerance break. So just for 3 to 4 weeks, because that's about how long it takes for all of those neural pathways in your brain to sort of go back to normal. Every For about 3 to 4 weeks, just try to decrease as much as possible your consumption. So whether you take that down to only 1 day a week or no days a week, if possible, it can just do really, really good for one, bringing down the levels in your blood if you need to go for like a job and get drug tested, or if you're just trying to decrease the amount that you have to take. I would say tolerance break at least like once or twice a year is really good for you.
Um,
Like,
in Oh, go ahead.
no, go ahead. I was just saying that similar to the weed and all substances. Generally, what happens in cigarettes, right? People generally start trying to quit that, and there was one of an article saying that if you start doing one thing for 21 days, it will get into your daily routine. If you quit it for 21 days,
Yeah,
it will help you to quit that, right? That was one thing. Second thing, also because your body is so used to it, in terms of the cigarette I'm talking about, that your body needs nicotine, right? And
yeah, I
for
guess it just
that,
dependency on
yeah,
it.
yeah, because of that need of nicotine, you are so much dependent on it, that you cannot help it. Because sometime what happen, a lot of people who are smokers, who generally do cigarette, generally smoke cigarettes, and suppose they are in a an hour meeting, and then after a meeting, they need to be stressed out, right? And for that they have to smoke. I don't know why, that is basically a crave for a body. But similarly, in any of the drugs, I hope you guys have not done some hard drug. Have you?
No.
You have not, right?
Like,
So
I'm even very careful with my weed consumption just because, like, I know I've seen how addiction affects people. It's
mhm.
not pretty. Like, you end up using or losing a lot of your money. You lose opportunities, whether it's with friends, relationships, jobs, activities. Um, Even though it's very much legal in the States for recreational use, you should still be careful with it because it could
Mhm.
affect your whole life. And then before you know it, you're just stuck inside the house, constantly smoking weed, and you have nothing going for yourself.
Well, in even in the lot of jobs, they generally carry out drug tests, criminal background checks, and the drug test is very important, right? I still remember
Mhm.
there was one of a person, I got him hired, and there was about to be a drug test, and because he was deprived from a job, and he had this career gap for like more than a year and a half, and he was like, "Hey, Manish, I really want this job," and I was like, "Okay, I'll get this job for you." He tried, and I was able to get him the job. But I and when I explained him that, hey, you know what, there is going to be a drug test, criminal background checks, last 7 years of employment checks, and everything is going to happen, he heard everything except the drug test. Now what he did, the moment he just got the job, he started celebrating, because the job was, he just got the offer on Friday, and the Saturday Sunday was totally, he was like, I'm the king, I'm gonna smoke like crazy. And when Monday he went, his drug test came positive, and he failed that, right? He could not start a job on a job. So any which ways, it is impacting a lot of people, specifically financially, socially, I would say. Because when you are,
Yeah.
yeah, when you are totally dependent on a substance, um you cannot help it, rather than being dependent, or how your action are derived by those substances. And then it also really jeopardize a lot of relations. What are the three take away, Alyssa, you give to the viewers who really want to learn from this podcast? What should be the three takeaway from this podcast people should take?
Um, that drugs in small quantities could be helpful, but you should never put it above anything that you actually need. For instance, you need houses, you need a job to make money. It should never come before any of those things. If you are going to use drugs, if they're legal for you, you should only do it if it's legal. Um,
Yes. That thank you so
yes,
much for
I do
pointing it
not
out.
promote
I was like,
anything.
what the fuck is wrong with Alyssa? Somebody who is in the legal state and there's not legal, and they're like, Alyssa told me that, doing drugs in a limited is good for me, and they'll start doing it. So yeah, thank you so much for just, being
Yeah.
categorical
If
there.
it is if it is legal for you, you can use it recreationally, try it in small amounts with plenty of people if they've had it before, um, and stay inside the house. You can only make more terrible decisions when you're out of the house and like you have your wallet with you. You know what I mean? Because then you're just
Hmm.
free to do with it, whatever. Stay inside, small quantities. Only do if it's legal.
How about
Do
you,
you have
Jade?
anything?
Yeah, I definitely agree with those. I would say know who and where it's come from,
Yes, yes.
whatever you're using.
Hmm.
um yeah, I definitely cannot say enough. Do it socially. Having people around is great, especially if like you're gonna freak out a little bit. It definitely helps to have people around who can be like, "You're all right," because super often a ton of it's in your head. Like,
Hmm.
Well, it is. It's a
yeah,
bunch of chemicals interacting with chemicals.
nothing's actually gonna happen. Like you can't overdose on weed. Those things just don't happen. It's really about controlling where your head is at. And so if you have a bunch of friends around who know what's going on, that can be super helpful. Yeah, definitely only do it when it's legal or where it's legal. Not gonna advocate for any illegal actions
Yeah.
out here. Oh, and stay away from motor vehicles. If it has an
Yeah.
engine, don't touch it.
Hmm.
Don't touch anything with an engine.
That's a very good
For
point.
fire. Like don't try cooking or anything like that while you're on it because that's how some people burn their houses down.
Yeah, no, stay away from fire. I have experience with that one.
And research again if it's legal for you, research the strains before you try anything. Just because there's mixes, there's harder versions of it, there's softer versions of it. There's ones where it only affects how your mind acts. There are ones that make your body super lazy and you can't control your limbs as well. So research what you're doing first, and then if you can try it, try it.
My God. So I mean, I like how much experience you have, Alyssa. I like it. It literally telling that hey, I have done all these, and I am a wiser version, for myself. And that is that is going to be the motivation, for the people who really wants to quit it. Also, to all our viewers, this episode is basically just to make sure that you are aware about what you are doing, right? Every individual has their past life. When I say past life, the young age stories, right? Some can be drugs related, some can be sexual related, some can be even worse, right? But I really appreciate Alicia and Jade coming here and telling the truth, because it takes a lot to come and talk about these things, right? Because people, look, these things are always be very personal, right? And I personally feel that there are two kind of people, right? Generally, you tell the people that this is my experience, and you are supposed to take your decision based on what I have done and what I have the consequences, right? And they can learn from it. There are another kind of people who really want to experience it and then learn from that, right? So I really want our viewers to see that and learn from it rather than doing it and learning it, right? Obviously the call is
Right.
yours. Thank you so much, Alyssa and Jed, for joining me on this call. And I'm super duper excited, for each one of you, because you guys are doing so great in your career, profession. I know Alyssa very personally, because the thing is, I have worked with her. She is super great when it comes to the technology. Jade, I'm wishing you all the best. I know you are doing and studying philosophy, and philosophy comes with all these experiences, right? Because unless until you have not experienced so much, you cannot talk philosophy, right? On that note, I would thank you both for joining me in, and thank you, viewers, for looking at this and hearing me out. And we'll catch up with you with the new episode that is going to be more interesting and encouraging. Thank you so much.